The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers, and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. Some interviews heard on this program may be sponsored by the participants. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and it must be Friday, and indeed it is. We're coming at you live from the Scottsdale Air Park studios of Money Radio, 1510 AM, 105.3 FM, and the World Wide Web, moneyradio1510.com. And we're coming at you live here on April 8th, Friday. It's hard to believe we're done spring training. Major League Baseball started yesterday, and for those Diamondback fans, they were losing to the Padres the entire game, but the ninth inning, they turned it on, and they scored 4 runs, and they won 4-2. So let's make sure that's an omen, or hope it's an omen for a great season. And if you live here, you know that the weather's outstanding. We're having another beautiful Chamber of Commerce Day, and it's delightful to be here in Scottsdale, Arizona. If you are just tuning into our show for the very first time, our show is about how our older adult population can live a healthier, happier life. And how do they do that? They do that by listening here to our show. And it's not about me. It's about the guests I bring to the show. And today is no different. I have 2 extraordinary guests here in my studio. I've got Jaclyn Hall. She is the CEO of Via Linda Behavioral Hospital. Welcome to the show, Jaclyn.
Thank you for having us.
And I have Dawn Hoffner, and she's the Director of Business Development, also at Via Linda Behavioral Hospital. Welcome.
Thank you very much. We're excited to be here.
And it's good to have you here. And, you know, when you sit down and you think about it, behavioral health care, it's something that, you know, people are really becoming more aware of behavioral health challenges that people are enduring. And no time better than during a pandemic that we really talk about this. But for those that are living here in Arizona, I just want them to understand that Via Linda Behavioral Hospital is a new hospital, and we're going to have Jaclyn talk a little bit about that. But it's a joint venture between Honor Health and Universal Health Services, otherwise known as UHS. So, Jaclyn, you guys opened on St. Patty's Day?
We did. We opened on St. Patrick's Day, so we're within 30 days of our, open. Really excited. The team behind the scenes has been working really hard to make this happen. So helpful that, we've had such great partners in this. So UHS and Honor Health and our project management teams, as well as our startup staff, they've just been making sure that we are all set to go and we provide best care. So big shout out to them. Thank you so much. And we just can't wait to continue to help people within the community.
And how long was this in the process? I mean, obviously, you may have been in at the very beginning, but I mean, to stand up a hospital isn't exactly the easiest thing to do these days.
I know. You think about everything as far as, the supply chain challenges that we've had and the staffing challenges that we've had. So to be able to open relatively on time was quite a feat. Overall, we've done pretty much everything, but 2020 is when we broke ground. This was a vision prior to that. Unfortunately, I wasn't brought in right at the beginning, but I had the opportunity to be brought on board around 2021. And have been kind of working on it since then. So
isn't it wild to watch it come to fruition?
Absolutely. I mean, I walk in and there's 4 walls and you're just like, pinch me, is this real? So
is it real? So for our listeners, especially the ones that live here in Arizona and Scottsdale, where exactly is the hospital located?
We're located off of 101 90th and Pima. It is next to a Dutch Brothers. So that's usually our point of reference, right down that location. So it's East Horseshoe Road. We're located within Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community.
Nice.
So we're providing services too for the community and looking to build out a Native American track to assist. And
Love it.
Really excited about that.
Love it. And for those listeners, that's the 90th Street exit right off the 101. And certainly, if you're familiar with the area, it's kind of like the back way into where the whole Honor Health Shea campus is and all the doctors' practices. So it makes a lot of sense for it to be there.
Right down the road, really accessible. It's just a great location, and it's very welcoming.
Well, and it's something that we desperately need here. So, without further ado, I mean, tell us a little bit about UHS, because United Health Services or Universal Health Services is really the owner, if you would, of the hospital and the behavioral health work. I mean, Honor Health obviously gives you the platform, but really talk to us a little bit about Universal Health Services and their origins and
definitely. So,
like that.
Our leader, Alan Miller, our founder, back in the 70s, 1970, had a vision about behavioral health care and healthcare accessible for all, and he has built quite a company. It's a healthcare management company, about 300 freestanding behavioral health hospitals.
Nice.
So quite a large network, and then 27 acute care hospitals across the United States. And then of those 300, some of them are in Great Britain for the behavioral health freestanding. So we have several behavioral health hospitals. And, from an overall standpoint, we're always looking for hiring, of course.
Right.
We talked a little bit about it before, but there's a lot of room to move within the company, and it's a great company to work for.
Fantastic. So you guys opened on the 17th of March.
That's correct.
And, you've got a couple weeks under your belt. Are you fully operational right now? And, where do you see yourselves going? I mean, obviously there's, approvals that you have to get through the state. And I'm sure you've checked all the boxes, so you were able to open. But if you could give us a lens or just an idea of what's going on.
Right. So we are at capacity going to be 120 beds. So that's acute behavioral health inpatient beds. 20 of those will be adolescent beds. 80 will be adult beds, and 20 will be older adult beds. Right now, we have about 10 beds open. We're licensed for 20, but we're making sure that the care matches what we really want it to be. So waiting for additional licensure to license the rest of the 100 beds, and that was due to a supply chain issue. I won't go into too many details about that.
I think a lot of people know about supply chain challenges.
Exactly. And then we'll be going through our Joint Commission survey later.
Right.
Probably within next month. So we're excited. We're busy, but we're so happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you here, and thank you for donning my studio. And I think there's a natural progression for me to ask you about you and how you got into this space. And have you been with UHS the entire time, or is this something new for you?
So I've been with UHS for about 4 years. I started as a CO in training, so I was recruited out of Arizona State University. So did my master's there. Go Sun Devils. So I did my MBA at ASU, and then also did my MSBA at the same time. And just kind of stumbled into a wonderful interview that I was just captured by. And that's how I'm here, is I really saw the growth potential of the healthcare industry and the need for continuous leadership. And it was a great path for me. And then I didn't realize, in the background, there are so many families that go through behavioral health issues and have struggles, and there's just so much stuff that you just don't realize that's happening as a young person. And to be able to talk about that and really understand that, and not until I was hired did I really start understanding that so many family members went through the same thing. And if they just had the space to talk about it and really process it. So, in realizing that kind of became my mission. And but as well as growing a wonderful, wonderful team that we have. And so I think the hospital culture just matches that need to be able to have that space to create your own as a staff member, but also the patients to come in and say, I need help.
Right.
And how can I get that help?
Right. And as it relates to staff people, I'm sure, because I know you and I talked before the show. I mean, we're both mission driven, right?
Right.
And you want your staff to be mission driven too. You want them to have that same enthusiasm that you do to really help and help others, because they do need that.
And they're the exact types. Like, they're fantastic.
Well, you know what? You got a little Boston taking us out in the first segment. Thank you, James. It's Friday, so why not Boston? It's good to hear. I've got a lot more to talk to you about, Jaclyn, so
Absolutely.
It's hard to believe we're down one segment. We got 3 more to go. I've got Jaclyn Hull here in the studio. I got Dawn Hoffner, too. They're both from Via Linda Behavioral Hospital. We are taking a break right now. We'll be back in a moment. Stick around. We'll be right back. You know, the safety of older loved ones during this pandemic has posed the greatest challenge for many families. Hi, this is Bob Roth, managing partner of Cypress Home Care Solutions. I know many of you are nervous to choose a communal living option for your elderly loved ones these days, but home care remains the safest alternative. For over 25 years, Cypress Home Care has served our community, and today we continue to help families by placing high-quality caregivers into their homes that follow the strictest CDC safety and testing guidelines. Cypress Home Care is here for them, and we're here for you. Bathing, meal preparation, medication reminders, and so much more, whether it's a couple times a week or every day. So if you want to keep your loved ones safe and at home, call us today at 602-264-8009 or look us up on the web at cypresshomecare.com.
Ask yourself,
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth. We're in our second segment. If you missed our first segment, you want to go up to our website at cypresshomecare.com. Click on the media button. Third button down is radio show. You'll catch this show and many, many more. So if you're just tuning in, I've got Jaclyn Hall and I've got Dawn Hoffner. Both are with Via Linda Behavioral Hospital. It's right here in Scottsdale. It's a joint venture between Universal Health Services and Honor Health. And in the first segment, we got a chance to talk to Jaclyn Hall and talk to her about, standing up this hospital and how exciting it was and what she went through. I got a little bit of a taste of her background, and it's only proper that I now punt it over to you, Dawn, and really ask you about your background. I know you've been with Universal Health Services for a little while.
I have, Bob. I'm really excited to be here with Via Linda in Scottsdale. I was previously with UHS in Fargo, North Dakota, so it was, a welcome change for me to be able to transition here to Scottsdale. But as you were discussing earlier with Jaclyn, UHS is just, it's an organization that's really dedicated to ensuring that we can offer quality behavioral health care services across the whole continuum for patients and families that need those. And so we're super excited to have the new hospital opening and to begin to build out, those services that the community that has identified that there's such an incredible need for.
No doubt. And, I know Jaclyn is the CEO and you are the director of business development, and certainly your role is to get the message out there. And I must say, look, at one point in time, I worked in the consumer product goods world, and I worked for a company that had the brand Gatorade, and I was in charge of Gatorade. Well, Gatorade kind of sold itself because everyone knew about Gatorade, and certainly I'm asking this question of you. We know that there is such a great need. So, I mean, your role is to get that message out there, right, about Via Linda being, ready and willing and able to take on anyone that needs some assistance.
That's absolutely correct. Getting the word out that we're open, but also really sharing, what it is we're offering at Via Linda and how people can access our services. So, it's going beyond we're here, we're open, but really, building the brand, helping people understand who we are and what we're going to be doing. And that is, of course, we're going to talk a little bit more today, and we're excited to be with you to talk a little bit about, the programming and services that we are offering at the hospital and that we're going to be looking to offer the community as we grow. So it's great news.
Well, I think it's a great segue to really talk about the services. So please, do tell us what kind of services are you going to be offering there?
So I'll take this one. We're starting with our adult population, and it's for anyone that has a psychiatric primary diagnosis, right? And so you can have a secondary substance abuse, but anxiety, depression, bipolar, if any psychosis is happening. So if you're not feeling like you're getting enough sleep, if you're feeling like you're just anxious and you're not able to function, if you're seeing things and just hearing things that aren't around, those are definitely signs that you probably should come in for an assessment and we can help you out.
So my question to you is, do I need to go to my primary care physician first before I come to see you, or can I call you, or just
Yes, you can absolutely.
How does that work?
So you can absolutely call. Our number is 480-476-7000 is our direct line. You can come in 24/7. We operate as 24/7. There's someone there to assess you. And it's a no-cost assessment. So come in, tell us what's going on with you, and we'll be able to get you, if it's not with us, it's going to be a proper level of care to what you're experiencing. So just come talk to us, and we're here to help.
Well,
so.
That's good to know. And 24/7, phone number is 480-476-7000. And, certainly, that is... It's incredible that we have this resource, but I mean, I really want to take an opportunity right now to really talk about the need and why you do exist, and why the hospital system is growing, because the need is growing.
The need is incredible. So across the United States, 1 in 4 adults have a behavioral health symptoms, something that's going on with them that needs to be addressed. And we can help manage that. So at all times, it's making sure that we're available. Arizona's ranked 48th out of 50 in regards to behavioral health care as well. So
that's not a good thing, is it?
That is not a good thing.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
That's not a great thing. No, we'd love to be number one.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's something that, we're continuously working on. So access to behavioral health is so difficult sometimes to locate and be able to have a bed. There's a bunch of different statistics, but it's around about 10 to, the numbers back and forth, but 10 to 35 usually is every an acute bed count to 100,000 people. So if you're saying 1 in 4, and then you're only saying about 11 to 35 for 100,000 people, you could see why there's such a need.
Well, we have 4.6 million people that live in Maricopa County alone. So yes, my math's not that good, but that's a lot of beds. And by the way,
that's a lot of beds needed. Yeah.
And my math is good enough to say 1 in 4. That's 25% of our population.
25%, about 25%. Yes.
Yes, and I think one of the things that's happened more than anything, and I know elevating this and really talking about this helps. But there's always been this stigma, and even to this day there is. And I think more people talking about it and coming out about it makes it more acceptable. Because, look, I think I shared with you before our show. I know I shared with you before the show. I was with someone yesterday, and this is a professional, and this person has been taking anti-anxiety and antidepressant medicines for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. Volunteered it.
Mm-hmm.
I was really surprised, and I mean, because this person's got their act together.
Mm-hmm.
This person is awesome, and you know what? Without that help, she wouldn't be who she is.
Yeah, and there's so many people that have gotten the help that they need, and then so many more that need that help to be in the space to be able to say, hey, I have behavioral health things going on with me. but that safe space to be able to recognize that it's healthcare no matter what. So I believe the pandemic has helped, kind of put that on voice, but we weren't not talking about it before, but it's becoming more of, we can talk about it in a safe place. It just feels like that.
So I'm going to ask you a question. This is the way our show works.
Sure.
How do you approach that? How do you begin that conversation? Because if you're a loved one and you know a loved one is struggling, how do you start that conversation?
Yeah, it's a hard conversation to start.
It is so hard.
And sometimes they go really great, and sometimes they don't, and sometimes people put up walls. But at the end of the day, you want the best for that person, and that's where it comes out of, is that compassion, that care for that person. Say, hey, I care about you, and I'm recognizing these things that are going on. And for me, those are red flag behaviors, because that's not been happening with you before. And really, starting it with the I statement really helps to bridge that gap to where you're not saying you need to go get help. So you're really starting it from the I standpoint.
The I standpoint, but also letting them know that you're here to help too.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's so important to know that, look, you're not going at this alone. I'm going with you.
Yeah. It's a journey together, really. So it's that journey of healing together where somebody's going to walk alongside you.
Yeah.
So.
And I think, I would just add in, I what Jaclyn said is so true about her comment earlier about comparing it to other medical conditions, right? Because if you see your family member clutching their chest, turning color, having shortness of breath, you don't hesitate to point out these symptoms that you see, right? And you're concerned about them. And I think that's part of breaking down the stigma. When you think about how to share with people how they can talk with loved ones, it's exactly that, right? Here's what I see and has me concerned, and how can we approach it, and how can we get it checked out and get help? And I think sometimes we have folks who are afraid to ask the question because we're afraid of what the answer will be, right? If we ask someone how they're doing and they're not doing well, we're concerned about what the next step is. And I think that's part of helping people understand that there are resources out there, there is help available. And so don't be afraid to ask the question, don't be afraid to engage, and don't think that you need to take care of it yourself if there is an issue.
And don't be afraid to call Via Linda Behavioral Hospital. I mean, you have experts over there that can help get that conversation started for somebody and give you some tools to make that happen. That number is 480-476-7000. You're listening to Health Futures Taking Stock in You. It's halftime here. Happy to have Via Linda Behavioral Hospital here in the studio. Stick around. We'll be right back. You know, the safety of older loved ones during this pandemic has posed the greatest challenge for many families. Hi, this is Bob Roth, Managing Partner of Cypress Home Care Solutions. I know many of you are nervous to choose a communal living option for your elderly loved ones these days, but home care remains the safest alternative. For over 25 years, Cypress Home Care has served our community, and today we continue to help families by placing high-quality caregivers into their homes that follow the strictest CDC safety and testing guidelines. Cypress Home Care is here for them, and we're here for you. Bathing, meal preparation, medication reminders, and so much more, whether it's a couple times a week or every day. So if you want to keep your loved ones safe and at home, call us today at 602-264-8009 or look us up on the web at cypresshomecare.com.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and we are in our second half here today. I'm really pleased to have Via Linda Behavioral Hospital here in the studio. It's a partnership between Honor Health and Universal Health Services. And in the studio with me, I've got Jaclyn Hull. She is the CEO of Via Linda Behavioral Hospital, and Dawn Hoffner, and she is the Director of Business Development. And what we're talking about is we're talking about behavioral health and the fact that there's a significant need for mental health care. Jaclyn shared with us in the first segment, 1 in 4, 25% of our population has a behavioral health challenge. We've come a long way, Jaclyn. We still have a long way to go, but really talking about it is the first point. And to your point, we rank 48th out of 50 states when it comes to mental health, and that is not a good thing.
No, it's not. And I laugh because there's so much growth to be had, and we can do it. It's not serious, but I believe, like, from an overall standpoint, we can do that growth. We can make sure that people get the help that they need. So
and it's it's recognizing that too. I mean, look, it's sometimes hard for individuals to recognize it, but loved ones usually can see a change in someone's behavior. And I want to maybe take a little deeper dive into this pandemic, because this pandemic has really pulled back the curtains and really exposed a lot of maybe mental health challenges people had that were they were self-medicating or getting through it, but all of a sudden they hit a brick wall when they didn't have work to do, or they didn't have their normal routines, and some of this started becoming exposed.
Right. So, I mean, we serve people with primary diagnosis of mental health, but do have that substance abuse as secondary if needed. If people are self-medicating, like, that's not a good thing, obviously. So we want to get to the underlying what's driving that. So at one point in the future, we will have our IOP. So that's groups, so deterioration in functioning. You start seeing yourself needing to kind of use alcohol as a chance to cope with maybe lack of sleep, anxiety, depression, that kind of thing, where you're not suicidal or homicidal or having visions of things and hearing things. That's going to be available to everybody. But also we have partners within the whole Phoenix area to be able to address if somebody's having a substance abuse issue. So you can still walk into our 24/7 assessment, and we can get you to the right level of care if we're not it.
Sure. Our show is called Health Futures, Taking Stock in You, and the tagline is so appropriate for this, is really taking stock in yourself and really staying healthy. And there are lots of ways you can get help, and really asking for help is the first step.
Yeah.
And that sometimes is a really hard step to take.
Asking for help, and sometimes it's just being big enough to say, I love me, and how am I going to help myself love me better, is asking for that help. So
no, I can't agree with you more. And I think so many think of mental health illnesses, they think about the people they may see homeless on the streets, and yes, it is a problem in our inner cities, but it does far reach beyond that. There are CEOs of companies, there are people that are financial managers, there are attorneys, there are so many people that are professionals out there that are struggling, and they're struggling every day.
I mean, it's not just one population, it's everyone. It affects everyone. 1 in 4, right?
It's an equal opportunity offender.
It is.
Yeah.
And we go back to, it's normal health. And I kind of want to give a nod to MTV's new campaign, Mental Health is Health. And they're really driving that it's across the board. It's no matter what healthcare, like Dawn said. If you have chest pains or a heart attack, you're still going to ask somebody, like, how do I get you to the right level of care? This is exactly the same thing. So going back to saying, hey, I love myself and I love me, and I'm going to get that help that I need for the anxiety, depression.
Well, I think corporations, bigger corporations, are understanding of that too with their employees, where 20 years ago they didn't quite understand that.
Absolutely. EAPs are available to a lot of companies, and sometimes it's just asking, who can I go to within that EAP setup. So
This is a little bit off topic, but in Arizona, recreation marijuana, has that affected, people that are coming to you with, and it may be more one of your sister locations, Calvary, and one of the others. I mean, are you seeing a higher uptick in behavioral health challenges?
We're seeing a lot of overall drug use. So, I mean, it's just people have access to drugs, street drugs, and people need to come into a place where they have been paranoid because of what they've taken, and now they're psychotic, right? And you don't know what you're getting out on the street. So just there's a lot of stuff that we're seeing, but that's been historical too. So it's just something we continuously combat.
So we talked about, in the second segment, we talked about the levels of care, and I would love for you to maybe do a deeper dive into that.
Sure,
and really talk to our audience and me in terms of what type of care we can expect over at Via Linda.
So, if somebody's admitted to a level 1 behavioral health hospital, it starts with the assessment, right? So before even the admission, it starts with the assessment, because we need to make sure that we're providing the proper level of care. If you meet the proper level of care, Via Linda Behavioral Health Hospital is a voluntary sign-in. So we need to make sure that you're consenting to treatment. If you're not consenting to treatment, then there's different options, right? But I'd prefer to follow the voluntary route.
It's a much easier route yes. Because otherwise, sometimes you have to go through the courts, and that's not easy.
Yes. So with the voluntary sign-in, we want to make sure that you're getting up to the unit. You'll see a clinician, a doctor, and an internal medicine doctor really quickly. So within 24 hours. And the nurse is doing an assessment usually as you get to the unit within 8 hours. And they're assessing for what you need, what level of, what do you need as far as coordination of care. So discharge starts at admission. So we want to make sure that we're getting you to the next level of care very quickly. So we're stabilization, right? We're stabilizing and making sure you get meds that are the appropriate meds to address the symptoms. But then if you have any medical, that we're addressing the medical as well. And then overall, your problems, are matching what treatment goals that we can put in place and work towards your discharge.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's a beautiful facility, 120 beds overall, 73,000 square feet. The unit, semi-private, 10 bedrooms, so a unit's 20 rooms. So you'll program with other people who have similar issues that they're going through, right? Because the power is in the collective, is understanding that this isn't just me. Right?
Support groups are awesome for
absolutely.
Because it gives you that feeling that I'm not alone, especially when you hear other people going through very similar things.
And then we have activity therapy groups. We have process and psychoeducation groups. So everything to talk about how to process through what you're going through in different ways. So if talk therapy doesn't really work for you, maybe something else will.
Right. And I know that, the major issues and the ones you've talked about are depression, anxiety, personality disorders, and co-occurring substance abuse.
Right. And yes.
Well, you hear the music, got a little Coldplay taking us out. So we got one more segment. Want to talk a little bit more about behavioral health, and more importantly, about Via Linda Behavioral Hospital. Their phone number is 480-476-7000, and I'd be wrong in not making an appeal. You're looking for people, right? Employees?
We are looking for employees, so if you're interested, please look at our website, click on the careers, and let us know. We're interested in interviewing you.
And that's vialindabehavioral.com.
Yes.
You're listening to Health Futures Taking Stock in You. We're down 3. We got one more to go. We got Via Linda Behavioral Hospital here in the studio. We'll be right back.
Now back to Health Futures. taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures Taking Stock in You. And if you're just tuning in, we're in our fourth segment here. I got Via Linda Behavioral Hospital here in the studio. Jaclyn Hall, she is the CEO, and Dawn Hoffner, she is the Director of Business Development. They're a brand new behavioral hospital that just got stood up on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. And as Jaclyn took us through, much needed in our community. We are definitely, the ratios are in the wrong direction. We're ranked 48th out of 50 states when it comes to behavioral health. We need more Via Linda behavioral hospitals. We need universal health services to open up more of them around in our community, because we need that assistance. We really do. So, talking about the hospital. We know it's right up here in North Scottsdale. It's right off of 90th Street and 101, right there by Dutch Brothers.
Right.
And you've got 20 beds already up and going. You'll have 100 more very shortly once you get through JCO and through licensing and all those other wonderful things. But I really want you to talk about the hospital, because, I got to tell you, Jaclyn, I can't help but think about, the famed movie that I watched growing up, One Flew Over a Cuckoo's Nest, right? White walls, padded walls, very sterile, feeling like an institutional hospital. Yeah. I'm assuming that
it's far from it. So far from it. It's beautiful. It's warm. It's inviting. The hospital, just when driving up to it, it looks like it fits in the landscape, right? It doesn't look like it's that straight hospital, that sterile feeling.
Right.
It's a beautiful facility. So we had a muralist come in from the SRPMIC community.
Nice.
And very beautiful, beautiful murals that he's dedicated to the hospital that focus on healing. But also we have 2 large basketball courts. So 1 indoor, 1 outdoor, astroturfed, 4 courtyards. Just a beautiful facility. The walls have different patterns, all very warm. The paint colors, we go from like a teal to a brown and like a neutral tan. It's very comfortable. It doesn't feel like you're in a white-walled area, and you never will be. So,
well, what's really fascinating for me is I've lived here in the community for 28 years. My mom and dad moved here about 35, 36 years ago, and Honor Health used to be Scottsdale Memorial and then Scottsdale Healthcare. But, it's such a community hospital, and really just to see the growth of Honor Health and the partnerships that they have, partnerships in rehab, partnerships in brain care, heart care, cancer care, and now behavioral health. It's just a natural for our community to have this through Honor Health.
Yeah, Honor Health's been amazing. Their growth is quite fantastic. I sat on their orientation, and from their growth, it's just been it's been fantastic to kind of see how their growth has progressed, and they're so focused on continuum of care, and all of the execs have been so wonderful, and staff, at all of our emergency departments have been amazing. So, they're wonderful to work with. So
I look over at Dawn and I'm like, you don't have really that difficult a job. Just go to the Honor Health hospitals, right? And go to, the physician practices. All of that is, what I like to refer to as more internal marketing than anything else, because that'll help permeate throughout the community about what you guys are doing at Via Linda Behavioral Hospital.
Absolutely. And we're really excited because, as Jaclyn said, it's been a wonderful partnership, and it's been a shared vision in terms of what does the community want and need. And the work that Honor Health had done with community assessments, as part of serving the community, this behavioral health care need was their number one identified need. And so it really is a shared vision, and it's working very, very well. And we're really excited to continue to grow the partnership.
It's wonderful. It really is.
Yes.
As we get ready to wind down our show,
okay.
I always like to really leave you guys an opportunity to really leave a lasting message. And, one of the things we talked about in the third segment was employees.
Yes.
We all need really good employees, and you've got this wonderful hospital that you just described. What a great environment to be in.
It is.
And
so is.
And I know that one of the frontline positions you need are behavioral health techs.
Behavioral health techs and nurses.
And nurses.
We're always looking, and we're looking to open up other units. And this is a team, and really it is a team. We'll have our leadership staff working alongside, direct care staff, that we're not afraid to jump in and assist. So it is therefore a very, very strong team.
No, it's nice to know. And if they were listening in, or somebody, how do they apply?
They go to vialindabehavioral.com, go to the careers page, and then click on the link to where you're seeing all the openings.
Okay.
And then clicking on the one that best fits you, filling out that application, and then coming in and having a conversation with us. It is a conversation. I mean, interviews are scary sometimes, but we want to know about you just as much as you want to know about us. So
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, I've learned a lot about you guys. So really love having you guys on the show. And a message to our community in terms of behavioral health. I want to, them to really understand, signs maybe to look for, how to best get this conversation started. And obviously, without a doubt, they can pick up the phone and call.
Right. So if you are having any trouble sleeping, you're not eating, what you normally eat, if you're, staying in bed all day, oversleeping, hearing things, seeing things that aren't there, feeling like you're going to make a quick decision, or feeling suicidal, feeling like you're going to hurt someone else, we would help you with that. Definitely. Those are signs and symptoms that we definitely address in med management and programming and whatever we do. So all of the things that we do. But most of all, we provide safety. So we provide safety every 15 minutes. So when I say that, it's the constant rounding that we do every 15 minutes to make sure that a person that has a dangerous environment at home is in a definitely different environment that is geared towards safety. So nothing can hang on anything. That's what we're talking about.
Well, I mean, let's face it, we certainly have the triggers to really bring up a lot of this on. I mean, pandemic being one of them, gas prices and interest rates and everything, the war that's going on in Ukraine and Russia. I mean, all of this is enough to weigh on people. And one of the things I tell my clients, seniors, I tell them to take a news diet. Take in as little news as possible, because nothing on the news is really positive.
It's a lot to overwhelm someone.
It is.
And sometimes very traumatic, to where it may be a flashback from something else that happened earlier in their life. If that happens to you, we can talk to you about it too. So don't feel like you don't have anybody to talk to.
No, and it's really nice to have this resource and this partnership with Honor Health. And we've had the pleasure of having a number of Honor Health physicians and certainly management folks here in our studio to really talk about their growth and really their mission to serve the community. And this partnership is set up exactly to do that. Once again, if you want to reach Via Linda Behavioral Hospital, you want to call 480-476-7000 or go to vialindabehavioral.com. Thank you, Jaclyn.
Thank you so much for having us today.
And Dawn, thank you.
Thank you.
Make it a great day. You got have anything planned for the weekend?
No, just being around.
All right. Well, you got a lot of work to do, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, make it a great day. We'll be back next Friday.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
There's no place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress Home Care Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit cypresshomecare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM.